guys, I don't understand. This is the biggest bone that I've had to pick with the Jimmies and the Joes. And listeners, we love you. We gave away home field. We gave away a free copy of College Football 26. I'm going to need somebody to jump in the comments here and explain what in the world Missouri is doing next on our list. Trey, you just give me a thumbs up when you're ready to take over the wheel again. This team is a top 20 defense that's returning 7 starters from last year. They have a stout offensive line, a very solid rushing attack, and a blue chip quarterback that sure is going to be brand new to the program. But boy, if Bo Prabula can scratch that ceiling, I think Missouri is well above the, what is this, 13th, 14th ranked
13th.
team on this list? 13th.
Yeah, 13th from the Jimmies and Joes. And man, the combination of that defense, we'll talk about the schedule in a second. It was much maligned last year when they got to 10 wins. But I think I'll forgive the Jimmies and Joes for overlooking that a little bit because they do lose a lot on the offensive side of the football. And this is a team that for the last few years, at least, has really found the identity. The defense has been really good. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Like you said, it was top 20 last year. But the identity, I think, has been on the offensive side of the football. Sure. And especially when you lose guys like Luther Burden and Theo Weiss at the wide receiver position, you lose the starting quarterback, you lose most of the rushing production. It's easy to see why the Jimmies and Joes might think that there's going to be a step back from this team. But you mentioned Bo Prabula. I think that's a great replacement. He was kind of a gadget player for Penn State the last couple of years, but I think that he is plenty talented enough to lead an offense on his own. Definitely flashed in some games at Penn State. Top 2 running backs are gone, but you've got Ahmad Hardy, who had 1,350 yards as a freshman at ULM last year. That's a great pickup. And then Kevin Coleman comes over from Mississippi State, who was their one last year to lead that receiving corps. So it's going to be really interesting to see if this team adjusts to being a defensive-minded team. I think the defense is certainly going to lead the way. It's going to be the unit that's very much ahead of the offense to start the year. How long does it take the offense to get together? How long does it take them to gel? And does it really throw off the whole vibe that Drinkwitz had going to be a defensive-minded team versus an offensive team? I struggle to say that again because they had really good defenses, but I just feel like they were – when I think Mizzou, I do think offense over defense, and so that is going to be an adjustment for a lot of people inside and outside of that program.
Well, and it was a good adjustment that they made when Blake Baker leaves, right? He had that Mizzou defense humming. He gets poached by LSU. So Corey Batoon comes in, and they picked up right where they left off. Like I mentioned earlier, top 20 overall defense. I think what helps me believe that the offense can figure it out relatively quickly is, yes, there are new faces on the wide receiver side, but you've got returners like Joshua Manning, like their tight end's named Brett Norfleet comes back. And then Kevin Coleman Jr., who's also a St. Louis native. He's coming back he's coming back home. He's going to take over Luther Burden's spot in the slot. He's going to take over his jersey number. He's going to wear number 3. So I think this is going to be kind of a coronation for Kevin Coleman Jr., who had a great year at Mississippi State last year. I think his ceiling is even higher this year. And it's a grizzled offensive line. It's a nasty offensive line that's going to be in front of Ahmad Hardy and those backs and Prabula as he kind of warms up to being a starting quarterback. Ahmad Hardy, wasn't he the kid that committed to ULM specifically with the intent to go to the Power 4 level after 1 year at ULM?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
He said, I think maybe even on signing day that
he
was already looking forward to his transfer portal opportunities, which, you know what? The dude bet on himself and he
paid off.
Well, yeah, and it worked. And this will be a copy paste take for me a couple of times tonight, but this whole thing is just going to depend on how well those offensive pieces gel, right? Trey, you kind of mentioned it. The good news though for them is it's a soft start to the schedule up until it's not. They get Central Arkansas, Kansas, and Louisiana. That gives you 3 weeks to figure it out, right? That's
offensive
3 weeks
to Kansas, sir. That's the border war.
It's going to be. I think that they're a much better team than Kansas. I think Kansas takes a step back, but that's just me. But then immediately you start SEC play with South Carolina. Yes, you get that game at home, and you're happy about that. You get a little drop off to UMass and a bye week before you then welcome Alabama here. So you don't take your first road trip until the middle of October. Kind of nice. It's going to be
October 18th is the
right.
first time they will leave Faurot Field.
And which is great when you're trying to break in that new offense, right? You get all those new offensive pieces. By the time they leave, they'll be 6 games into the season. So it's a softer start to the schedule in terms of just, I guess, opponent difficulty up until you hit those couple of SEC games. Couldn't have started with a couple of much harder teams to play in that first part of the SEC. But if you can get those games at home, show up to play, be ready, watch that defense with the crowd behind it, I think that they can maybe get a decent start. And even if you drop those 2 games, there's a lot of opportunities on the back part of that schedule to make some hay and find that schedule, right? We're looking at the over-under at 7.5. Feel pretty good about them hitting the over on that one. They may not be that good of a team, but the schedule really sets up well for them to win a lot of games this year, right? Like if they added a Texas or an LSU or, a couple of those in here, I may be a little less optimistic, but it's, I'm not necessarily hating on the schedule. I'm not necessarily hating on that. When you get an easy schedule, go make your money, go build your program. So I think this could be a pretty good year for Missouri.
Last thing I'll say about the Tigers, that secondary has a chance to be elite. I mean, we're talking about the defense being one of the best in the conference and could be up there in the top 2 or 3. I think the secondary's got the potential to be up there as well. Drayden Norwood is back. Toriano Pride Jr., who transferred over from Clemson last year, he's back. Jalen Catalon is at safety. Marvin Burks Jr. is at safety. It's a who's who. Dylan Carnell is their star. I mean, it's a loaded defense, and we've just been singing their praises this whole preview. It is kind of funky to think about them as a defense first team, but quite honestly, if they could win a few more of those nail biters, I think that would go a long way for Missouri's playoff chances. And I'm not necessarily projecting them to be a playoff team this year, but for me, that's what's lacked at times. Like LSU, when they came calling a couple of years ago, just get like 1 or 2 stops and you beat the Bayou Bengals at home. If they could get consistent on that side of the ball and be able to rely on them in key moments that determine whether or not they make the field or not, that's where I think Missouri starts to become more than just a fun team, but a real legitimate title contender.
Well, I'll push back on that just a little bit. They're actually last 2 seasons 10-1 in those close games. That has been what separated. I think you mean more like nail biters, like shootout type games where they just need to step up and get a shot.
Correct.
A stop.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. When the defense has remained in control of the game, that's been when Mizzou has been at their best, when they're not trying to just find that one stop or find that solution because the other offense is just getting away with murder over there. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, like this team a lot. I think they're really underrated. Johnny Walker is the other name that we haven't mentioned yet. He left he's gone, 9.5 sacks last year. So they are going to have to find a way to replace that. Don't know if we mentioned Zion Young yet, if you mentioned him, Mitch, off the top, but yeah, that's going to be a really fun edge piece to watch as he grows into a full-time starting role. But yeah, 6 home games to open the year. Never seen that before. Only 4 true road games. Those true road games are at Auburn, at Vanderbilt, and at Oklahoma and at Arkansas to close the year. I'm not automatically picking against them in any of those 4 games. So to me, this I can get to 8-4, 9-3 really easily, and that just means you're a couple bounces of the ball away from another 10-win seasons. They've never had 3 10-win seasons in a row. So that would be a huge milestone for the program.
Never would have guessed that Eli Drinkowitz would have gotten Missouri to where they are now with just, as strangely as that tenure started and some of the recruiting antics that they pulled. But he's done a job. He has a brand. He has a pitch. He has a style. And I mean, tip of the cap for him committing to that. Last thing, yes, Zion Young and Damon Wilson Jr., who transfers over from Georgia, hell on wheels off the edge. This Missouri defense is going to be just so much fun to watch.